let's do it. Welcome to Living, Breathing, and Having a Good Time. I'm your host, Sierra Cooper, and today we have a special guest, Hugo. Say your last name because I am so bad enunciating names I'm not familiar with because it's a Russian last
Vers
name.
Versalovic.
Vrsalovic, yes. And he is going to be discussing a lot of important things that you've developed over years through your own experience, through your recovery process. And go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, it started back over 25 years ago, just dealing with just my own addictions with gambling and alcohol. And so, I just had to figure out a way to kind of, like they say, you turn 30, and I was just trying to find a way to live differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally just stopped drinking, but I didn't know exactly what to do.
Uh-huh.
So So
What?
what ended up happening is so I finally someone had suggested, hey, why don't you go to a meeting, a 12-step meeting, and that's what I did. And my whole goal in the beginning was, man, I had a bad weekend around. I drank too much. I gambled. I wanted to come over to my girlfriend's place for sex. She said no, so I was depressed, broke, drunk, hungover, all those things. And so I said, I'll just go to a meeting because I just need to stop drinking for a day, a week. And then,
Mm-hmm.
just slowly like that, then I just started to realize is that, I needed help with all kinds of stuff, depression, anxiety, past traumas, whether around money, around sex, around relationships, around family, around childhood, around bullying, all those types of things. And just started my journey.
That's awesome. I'm in the medical field, and I know you don't know a whole lot about me, but I'm in the medical field. I'm a therapist. I'm a body worker. I'm not a psychotherapist, but I do read people, and I do have a lot of patients come in with a lot of anxiety, depression, bipolar, etc. And talking about mental health and trauma and all of that, you're a man. So women, obviously, we talk about this stuff. For a man, I'm sure it was 10 times harder because you probably deal with a lot of men now because of your journey. But, it to me, it has to be very hard for a male to go, hey, I want help. I need help.
Yeah, it is, but I find it, both sexes have issues. Women talk, but emotional intelligence really is something that none of us learned in our homes, in school, in our
Mhm.
churches. I mean, that's one of the things I say is your EQ is your IQ. And unfortunately, many of us just grew up with yeah, maybe a little more on the male side is well, you just got to figure it out. We all have to kind of grin and bear it. Uh,
Mhm.
but I just think also, whether you're male or female, that it's just we don't have the vocabulary to say I feel. Because you've asked most people, I say this, in presentations. Tell me three things that most people say when you ask the question, how are you feeling? They will say, I'm good, I'm
Uh-huh.
fine, and I'm okay. Guess what? None of those are feelings.
They're not. No.
But but it's a way to let people just kind of push people to stop asking me. And instead, even if someone asks me how you feeling, you just got to be able to say, I feel joyful today. I feel anxious today. And it's more than one. I tell you this quick story. So I was at my therapist's office, and this was early on. It was like a couple. So I'm a big believer in therapy. I'm a big believer in 12 steps. I'm a big believer in just reading literature, podcasts, all that stuff. Just get all the help you can get. But I'm in like probably about my second session, and I asked the guy, he asked me, he goes, how are you feeling? And man, I just think that this is a trick question. I go, well, I don't know. But I always had like, your go-tos, I could say I was anxious. I either could say I was angry or anxious. Those are usually male feelings. So I said I was anxious, and he goes, "What else are you feeling?" And I didn't know. And he saw that I was flustered. And then he just said, he goes, children between like 5 and 8 have one feeling at a time. Adults have multiple feelings all the time. And that kind of almost goes a light bulb and saying, okay, well, now I actually know nothing about emotions, feelings, and I need to learn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that is a very interesting subject because a lot of people they shut down, like you said, and they push people away because they don't understand how to deal with it themselves. Because we're obviously brought up in a society where you're a burden if you ask for help, which is why therapy is so important. And the lack of communication skills is atrocious. I mean, you see people on their phones, on their computers, digesting, either false information, inaccurate information, or just scrolling, just dumbing their IQ down and not actually learning to ingest and be a part of the community, a part of society, and how they can help. So, emotional intelligence, tell us the top 5 things for you that you learned on your journey through getting sober with yourself, through and through, realizing what caused you to drink and gamble a lot.
Well, I can tell you, well, briefly as you were talking though, but I think the other thing is people lack the ability to be empathetic.
I
If
agree.
someone is crying, men struggle with this all the time, like, oh, I don't know what to do. My woman's crying. And, they just totally just don't know how to handle it. Or
Correct.
if someone says, I feel depressed, male or female, don't know how to address that topic. Well, my
Mm-hmm.
stuff happened, early on. I had the first taste of alcohol at the age of 8. My dad drank beer.
Yeah.
I would drink the foam off of it because I thought it was like cool. It was like whipped cream, and my parents didn't think anything of it back then. I'm 58. So back in the 70s, no one talked about this or ever really understood addiction or how those little drops of alcohol could affect my brain. And so what people don't realize, the younger you start drinking or smoking, the more
Mm-hmm.
likely you are to become an addict because your brain is so undeveloped and is still developing until the age of 25.
Correct.
And then, I had a kind of like a sexual thing happen at 12 where these two older girls, I was 8, they were 12. I, so they actually, we started kissing, and I didn't really know how to do it, but I kept it as a secret. It was, that's where kids start keeping those secrets. They don't know how to process it. I couldn't tell my brother. And then it's
Correct.
like my first bet was when I was 12. So I had a lot of things happen early on. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got in first grade, I got bullied about my name, Hugo. It was this guy on the bus would say, Hugo, I go, then we all go. The whole bus would laugh. The whole year of being just
Uh,
bullied. But
yeah.
again, I was at a time, I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my sibling. My brother was on the bus, but he was too young to deal with it. Uh, and so a lot of this kind of then manifested. Then I went to, high school and, ended up drinking a lot more, beer, some weed.
Sure.
And then
Sure.
in college, started getting into more gambling. And in reality, it was just the inability to just talk about things that had happened. My family went through bankruptcy when I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of times it happens, there's childhood things. So I had like bullying. I had an early sexual or an alcohol experience. I had money issues, like family thing, like it was almost like the family shame of around bankruptcy, so there was a lot of things that kind of just accelerated, uh, and then it just kind of deepened depression or anxiety. And then, it just kept going throughout my 20s where I would say, oh, I'm having a great time. And I did have some great times, but I also wasn't really true to myself. And I think, if people could really just understand and ask, now I understand, I see the value in journaling, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't.
Writing. Yeah. Staying
You've got to
present.
write down, you've got to find people that you can really truly talk to. or believe in prayer, or, there's a lot of things nowadays. There's a lot of tools out there, or know when you need to you have excess energy, go exercise, go for a run, go to the gym, go swimming. There is nothing better sometimes than after 1 hour of exercise on how that can really relax your depression, your anxiety.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also the food we eat. There's so many little things that can happen. And I tell people all the time, there's so many little things free that can start changing the way you feel, and start
Mhm.
there.
Well,
As
yeah,
you,
because norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine, all of that. I mean, you're talking about a chemical base that, downs you. And here, good food, exercise, it brings you up. So, like you're saying, power of prayer, talk therapy, getting around mutual people that have been through the same experience or going through the same experience, you can collaborate together and actually find a common ground. Because I know a lot of people feel very shameful, or they feel very judged, or they feel, either by being overweight, being diagnosed with depression, anxiety, bipolar. They know they have to do these things, but what was the big motivator for you? Because I know a lot of people, they talk about this, right? Is how to fight through your battles and actually gain the motivation after you've basically abused your body for so many years and telling yourself you're not worth it. So how do you rise up from something like that?
well, the first question really to me is you've got to just look in the mirror and just do a self-assessment and saying, okay, not only where I'm at, because a lot of people say is okay, how do I stop being depressed? Well, that doesn't help. That never works. I'm going to
Hmm.
stop being depressed today. I just got to just think happy thoughts. That's BS.
It
I,
is.
I, what I try to tell first people, and what it dictates a lot. I say, well, what do you truly want to do with your life? I mean, or even just a simple thing. Do you want to travel to like one life? Do you want to go to like, say, you want to go to Japan? Or do you want to go skydiving? Tell me just something that you've always wanted to do,
Yeah.
And so I believe that there's a lot of things, because it's almost like you have to start cultivating a different mindset, but you also got to start taking action. And to me and you've got to, and I think the hardest part is you've got to be okay and comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That is true.
Uncomfortable of going to therapy, uncomfortable going to 12-step meetings, uncomfortable to journal, uncomfortable to go to the gym. Because there's times where you don't want to do it. And that's why they kind of say is just be consistent. Just have the discipline to say, okay. And that's why that thing I'm a big believer now in, especially with addicts, because they're too much on, well, I'm just gonna just kind of take it as it goes. No, you have to set a weekly schedule, because you can't start, because a lot of people say, well, I'm no longer going to drink ever again in my life. This is the last bet I'm ever going to take. Well, you're going to overwhelm yourself. Just focus on, I'm not going to drink or gamble today or this week. That's all you can handle. And set a schedule. Okay, I'm going to go to a meeting. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to be with my family. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. Uh, and in reality, when you set a schedule and you start saying is I, like you were saying, start saying those words. I deserve, like I would say it in the third person. Hugo deserves love. Hugo deserves recovery.
Yeah.
Hugo's going to have a great day today. He's going to go work out. He's going to feel great. And there's a lot of evidence in that about dealing with some type of PTSD or something that's very shameful. If you talk about it in the third person, that you can kind of almost disassociate yourself of the event, and then you can kind of put it into much more clarity, and then you can kind of overcome it. So I would use, there's a lot of little things, and that's one of the things that I try to do. I came up with this recovery growth scorecard. I give it out for free, and just tell, little things that you can do that are free. Most of them are for free, and that you
Hmm.
can do every day or every week. And you've got to start changing that neuroplasticity in your brain. You've got to start
Absolutely.
changing that slowly. And And there's so much that can happen in 30. It's amazing how much can happen in 30 in just 30 days,
It's
or
amazing. It is.
especially 90 days.
I
If
agree with that. And with you now, because I mean, 25 years is a long time. Like you're saying, you have to go day by day, week by week. So now for you, being 25 years sober, looking back, how is it still a journey for you? Has it became easier? I think for a lot of people that are listening, sometimes I think, well, they're 10 years recovered, so it's got to be like a piece of cake now. What's your take on that?
well, it's both. It's easy and it's got to be always in front. I always say recovery is beautiful. You've got to get to the mindset to embrace recovery. You got to embrace your new life. It's no different when
Mhm.
they talk about the Phoenix or certain things that you got to just, first of all, own your past. I'm a big believer. A lot of people want to think like, well, it happened so long ago, I don't have to talk about it. That's untrue.
Exactly. That
I
is
talk all the
untrue.
time about either being bullied or there was a woman, that was, we were boyfriend, girlfriend in my 20s. She got pregnant. She chose to have an abortion, but I had feelings
Mhm.
around that, around
Mhm.
bankruptcy. I don't run away from my past. I talk about any types of
That's
issues
wonderful.
that happen. But then you've also got to look forward to the future. It's like, what do I truly want in my life? Where do I want to travel? What do I want to do with my business? Who are the types of people that I want in my life?
Because you
And
become those people. Yeah, your
right, you
circle.
become right. So, and I'm a big believer in is that you got to look at each day. Just like this past week, my aunt was 98. Last Thursday,
Mhm.
she passed away.
Oh.
Now she had
Mhm.
already been kind of downhill these last 2 years, but she's
She
at
had a good life
peace.
though. Hmm.
But what I'm trying to tell people is that you still got to enjoy each day and be there for, for yourself. What do you want to do today? That's the
Stay
beauty of
true
those.
to you. You said
Right.
stay true to you. And I say that a lot to people. Be honest with yourself, stay true to you, be authentic. Don't change for somebody. If you want to change, change for yourself because you want to do it. And I think for a lot of people, right? So they duplicate themselves based upon what they see other people doing, influences, social media, what they see on TV, what they think is cool, and all this kind of stuff. Why is authenticity to you so important? And now that you know who Hugo really is, your originally born authentic self, what can you say in comparison to the other person that was in the past? What are the major differences?
Well, knowing that, what truly gets me going? I love going to the gym. I love podcasting. I love being a foodie. I
Mhm.
love
You live in
embracing.
Texas, of course, you're a foodie. Of course.
I love embracing my different families or groups. There's a certain ability to constantly look at who's in my life and then keep,
Mhm.
because in the end, life, I've gone to a lot of funerals over the last 10 years,
Yeah.
and they always talk about usually family and faith, or
Hmm.
usually, oh, they were so to this. And I always tell people who is most important to you, and then spend time, cultivate deep relationships. And when you can have
Absolutely.
more intimate, deeper relationships, number one, with yourself.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
number two, not only with your partner, lover, spouse, but also with what family members or friends or groups that you want to be in. And that's how you're authentic to yourself. This is what truly gets my juices going.
That's awesome.
So
That's
that's
really
how
awesome.
you should really be authentic. Be true to you.
So you do speaking events, correct? You go around, you speak to people about what it is that you've discovered along your way. And how many people have you learned from just by sharing your stories?
Well, there's always countless people that you never know how people interact with you. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially like you know, you have a podcast, you have no idea how many people are listening and then don't contact you. One
Sure.
thing is when you're in an audience. And so I just love to just share. I mean, to me is I love hearing and I love listening to other people's stories
Mm-hmm.
because that's
Yeah.
ultimately how we learn. We share each other's kind of stories on how to live. And I think that's be so key to just constantly embrace and just be able to be there for others to kind of just keep going.
Well, I know the power of prayer for a lot of people is really big and changing their life. I interviewed a former during COVID ER ICU nurse that fell off the deep end, drank way too much, bad relationship, bad marriage, lost everything. Now he's regained it. Has faith played a huge part along your journey? I mean, spirituality, have you discovered that there are new avenues, new outlets than you had not had before? Because I know a lot of people that either never grew up in church, never really believed in it, were never really spiritually based. They put everything on them. So, how do you see that?
Well, I think people have to embrace there's a spirituality. Like if you go to most people that, you know, that are on their dying deathbed, they've
Hmm.
come to address something about God, about, you know, living some type of spiritual life, something, you know, that's kind of constantly that they have to kind of address within themselves. And I think besides the people that never grew up in church, there's a lot of people that became addicts that went to church every week and then just
Hmm.
went away from the church or from religion. And
Off
I
on
think
their
the key
own.
thing is that people have to redefine what does higher power, what does God mean to them? Doesn't mean you have to return back to your religion, but you have to define it in such a way that, you know, that it makes sense to you. And so
Absolutely.
I'm a big believer in prayer. I'm a big believer in knowing that there has to be something bigger. There's got to be something bigger than you. When people
Yes.
say that they're, you know, that they're agnostic or atheist, well, there's something bigger than me. I know that. And I think
Hmm.
here's the other thing is the people who have some type of belief, they live longer. They have much more peace and serenity in their life. They're not always questioned because I always feel the people who are they constantly want to question religion or spirituality. They're constantly almost like a little bit of fighting. There's a little bit of
Fear. Hmm.
unrest.
Hmm.
And I'm a big believer in seek peace, seek serenity, seek joy, seek love, seek laughter. Uh, because life should be like that.
And so on your podcast is
The
called,
1% in recovery,
okay.
successful gamblers and alcoholics stopping addiction.
So when people tune into your podcast, what sets your podcast aside from others? Is it because you really dive into not only what you know, but some of the other things that people just don't want to talk about, or some other versions of solutions that people really don't ever talk about? Because I know for me, when I hear about, like, for instance, the gambling, you had mentioned the trauma of bankruptcy in your family and all this and that. Um, People ask, well, then why gamble? Because you can lose. So what's the what if they're psychologically thinking, well, I'm going to be bigger and better in life, this is going to take me maybe to a whole new level of wealth or whatnot. Are there other things besides 12 steps, prayer, which is the most important, um, and some other things that people can't even think of that maybe you've done, or you provide to other people that are struggling with these issues?
If you're talking mainly about gambling, I think the most important thing is understand gambling is not about money.
Okay.
Gambling, just like about any other addictions, about some type of emotional disease. There's something inside. It's usually lack of relationships. Most gamblers are extremely lonely, and they're using gambling
Interesting.
as a substitute lover. That's why, in the old days, women would love to go to a slot machine, a physical slot machine, and pull the lever. There was a lot of
That's
correlation in that with actually just feeling the touch of like a lover. Uh, and then, for a lot of men, they just use it as, kind of an escape. Number
okay.
one, what I always tell gamblers, number one, if you question, do you gamble too much? There's always a question when people walk into 12-step rooms. To me, is the number one question is if you lose gambling today, do you have a strong inner urge to go gambling tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is yes, you have crossed the line. I've seen it too many times. You're in that cycle mode that it's all about gambling. Forget about my paycheck, my
Mm-hmm.
savings, any other money you're going to get your hands on. I'm going to increase the credit card limit, whatever it is, get a payday loan. And the other thing is you got to stop thinking, I'm going to win back with the money I lost yesterday. Guess what? That
Good
money's
point.
gone. It's no longer
Mm,
your money.
good point.
Uh, it's the casino's money. It's the sports book's money. And then when they'll always entice you with oh, you get a free spin. We'll give you $100 at this at the restaurant, or we'll give you some extra bonus play money in your account, and that's just designed to get more money out of you. Uh, those are all just marketing ploys. So I tell people is you're not going to win back your money. The money you lost is gone. You can't win back your losses. Your losses you only can create a bigger hole. Uh,
So what you're talking about, right? So sobriety and stability go hand in hand, whether it be mental, emotional, physical stability, all of it, all the above. Stability to an addict is so different than when people talk about, well, I got to go out, I got to find a better job, I got to work harder, I got to put in more time to learn about something that I don't know about. Stability is very, very, it's a slippery slope for addicts. And so nowadays, I think we see a lot of indecisiveness, instability, because people are really either A, delusional, or B, self-destructive in which path to take. So the path of least resistance is something that's talked about. People will talk about finding their passions, or something that excites them, that makes them feel good. That's a healthy choice. How can viewers that are struggling with alcohol, gambling, stuff like that, how can they find things that they feel could overtake their urge to want to be self-destructive, to find more stability in their life?
well, you gotta that becomes just almost kind of like the line in the sand, because the one thing, if you are an alcoholic and you drink, the first drink of the day is the thing that gives you the most comfort. It's the thing that gives you the most ease. And you've also got to realize it's also the thing that's the most self-destructive. So it's always easy. Just like if, you have an issue with either food, or, you got to stop drinking soda or go to fast food. You've got to
Sure.
kind of fight it, and you've got to do something. That's why I'm a big believer in schedules. You've got to kind of do something, kind of understand, okay, this is really self-destructive. Understand, like the first bet, you're going to constantly be enticed. And there's no such thing as moderation drinking or responsible gambling. Once you've crossed, you have to believe and go into the total abstinence, but also understand that relapse is part of everybody's story, about 95%.
Mhm.
So don't get hung up on, oh, I can't believe I went back and I drank, or I went to McDonald's, or I did something and I went back. As long as you, just like they say, just get back on the horse. Okay, you
Mhm.
fell off. No big deal. The question is don't stay off the horse and continue to eat poorly, gamble, drink, drug, whatever it is, just get back on and keep making progress, because any substantial change requires, it's not like a graph where the line is straight up. It'll dip down a little. They'll have some
Mhm.
valleys.
Sure.
And you just got to
Well,
just
yeah,
keep going.
because people talk about it in the medical field all the time. We can recreate neural pathways. And so, through, like you're saying, a schedule, doing something repetitive over and over and over again, eventually it becomes like riding a bicycle. And I know a lot of people too, and this is a question I'm going to ask you. A lot of people are very afraid of doing 12 steps. And I've heard patients come into my office talking about, before they went, how shameful they felt or how afraid they felt to open up, even amongst other addicts. So explain that to us, because I think a lot of people don't really understand why groups of associative people that are going through the same things, why they shouldn't be so afraid or shameful.
Well, that's always, to me, the big question why people question either 12 steps or therapy. They'll
Mm-hmm.
say, well, 12, I don't want to go to meetings for the rest of my life. Or how expensive is therapy going to be? How many years is it going to take? I always tell
Sure.
people, stop worrying about that. Everybody's recovery journey is different, but you also have to at least embrace it. 12-step meetings work because it's a fellowship. You finally find a family, you find a group, people who truly understand other compulsive gamblers, because your family doesn't understand. Just stop gambling. Stop drinking till you get drunk every day.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids will say, get off the phone, you're gambling, or why are you high on drugs or alcohol? And
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, just frame everything in 90 days. Like if you're talking about therapy, just commit to going to therapy once a week for 12 weeks. That's over. That's just 12 sessions. It's not a lot of money. That is a commitment. It will be a commitment of time and money, but it's only 12 sessions. And you can't make, and so many people make assessments about therapy in 1 or 2 sessions. Oh, my therapist is dumb. I go, how do you know they're dumb? Or they'll say 12-step rooms are just constantly talking about the addiction, and they can, certain rooms can. I say, give rooms 90 days, go to at least 3 meetings a week. That's 12 weeks, 3 times. That's 36 meetings. That's 36 hours. Then make a decision whether it's for you. You can always go to different meetings. You can always do different things. Also, besides just doing therapy, I was a big believer in reading. There's a treatment center up in Minnesota, Hazelton.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's run by, I think Betty Ford they're combined. They have a huge library. I just bought a bunch of books and just started reading.
Mm-hmm.
Now the beauty is there's so many good podcasts. Like you talk about my podcast, I don't talk about the addiction. I keep things short. I ask if I do a solo session, it's 10 to 12 minutes. If I bring on a guest, I ask them only 3 questions, and it's anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. So I keep it kind of concise, but I talk about specific tips or helps, or what is kind of going on and that's how I feel. And I talk about the steps, I talk about healing, I talk about recovery. I don't talk about the addiction. I don't talk about jail or divorce
The
or
negative.
repoed car. Everybody knows I don't need to you don't need tips from me. That'll happen in your life if you continue to do these things. But so it goes back to, I said, keep things kind of short, manageable. Keep it within a 90-day period. Then make
Mm-hmm.
a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Stop making a decision before you've even experienced. That's like trying to go like, I don't know if college is for me. That's 4 years. Well, why don't you go for 1 semester? Study hard, take 4 classes, and then make a decision about that specific major or something. But I think a lot of people now, unfortunately, we're in this society where I need to know if you're the one, let's say in a love relationship. I don't want to go on a first date unless I know this is going to lead to marriage. I go, well,
Oh,
that's not good.
geez.
No, but
Yeah,
I'm just
no
saying, this is
kidding.
like to say, I don't know if therapy's going to work, unless I know I'm going to be healed in 6 months. Well, it might take a year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So giving it a chance, because that's where
Right.
your thought,
And there
that's
are
where
going to be some failures. That's the whole thing. You are going to waste some money. You are going to waste some time. That is a given. That's a given in life and anything.
risk,
Stop worrying about that. I mean, hell, if I go back, yeah, I've wasted a lot of money. I've wasted a lot of time in doing things, whether it was in my addiction or in recovery.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I mean, even going back to people scrolling on social media, for example, I mean, there's so much time wasted, right? Where we could be so much more productive with our time. But also, too, getting back to what you just said, is people need to learn the lesson, take the lessons out of what it is you experience, whether good, bad, ugly, all of the above, because as long as you take the lesson from that, it's really not a waste. So, if people want to find you, how are they going to find you? I know you're based in Houston, so do you do speaking events abroad,
Yeah,
nationally?
I'm always available, whether it's speaking, podcasting, or making videos. There's two best ways to get a hold of me. Is number one is you can listen if you truly want to understand more about recovery and about the steps and healing. Listen to my podcast, The 1% in Recovery. It's on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and then you can find it also on YouTube, but that's to be a kind of a different link because my company is actually lifeiswonderful.love, which is actually the website. All
Oh,
one
awesome.
word, lifeiswonderful.love, LOVE. And there you can get the free scorecard. You can also see a link to the podcast. Those are the two best ways to truly understand if you're trying to understand more about gambling, more about alcohol, more about recovery, the steps. And also, if you just want to evaluate, if let's say you want to work with me, it's the best way to evaluate me for free and then just try to go like, hey, do I connect with this person? And then I'm also on social media. If you go to lifeiswonderful.love, you can find me on IG, TikTok, and I just put up different sound bites or videos, just trying to get people just have fun with it. Have fun. We got to have fun. And I always tell, so the thing that I always say in my
Exactly.
podcast is you've got to laugh every day. You've got to work hard. And I mean, work hard in recovery, work hard in your relationships, work hard in your business or your job, and to love unconditionally. If you can laugh, work, and love every day, you're going to have a good day.
And And just out of curiosity, this is a really kind of an interesting question. I don't know if someone's already asked you this, but out of the 12 steps for you, what was the hardest step?
Like I think what ended up being the hardest step was making amends to specifically to my father. Because he kind of drove us into bankruptcy. I always felt like he had to apologize to me first. Why am I coming here apologizing
Mhm.
for my behavior? And I went in and out of his, we worked together at that time. And I'd go in and out of his office for 6 months. And then I'd go to
Mhm.
therapy. I just couldn't do it today. I just couldn't do it today. And finally I did it. It's just because, a lot of people have those. For me, it was just that relationship. Just having it clear. And then and the beauty is that once I apologized to him, he apologized to me for the things that he did to me or to the family, which became a very beautiful moment because then for the
Yeah.
rest of his life, because that ended up being another 16 years, or actually 15 years, because that there was a lot more peace. There was things that were not left unsaid because you never want to get to that funeral and go, God, I wish I had said this. We never cleared up this. And that's the beauty of the
Mhm.
steps that I could take responsibility for my behavior, for my BS, and then I can truly apologize and say, look, I'm gonna do better. I'm not gonna continue to be this jerk or this person that's just disconnected with with the family or disconnected with life.
Just something really important for a lot of people is responsibility and accountability. Because the victimized, continuing in that feedback loop over and over again, you just said it. The only way to take a hold of your life is to take accountability.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, it's essence. You got to take accountability for your life. What are you going to do? That's the same. What do you want to do with your life now? And what are you willing to do? I mean, so some things can be easy, can be done in a day or a week. Something is going to take a couple of years.
Mhm.
Whether it's starting a business, starting a relationship,
Mhm.
figuring out, who's in your life. And so I get to now live the life that I choose. I read the books I want to read. I go to the restaurants I want to go. I travel to where I want to be. I love who I love.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy
So
I met you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. And I look forward to seeing you at Podfest. You're probably coming back to Podfest this year, right?
I will. I'll be there in January. I'll be there in Orlando, where all the best podcasters go for those
It,
few days.
it is. It's interesting. A lot of people, I just did an interview with Stephen Kimbrough, and it's so much fun. And people that never have went there and experienced it, you need to come. So thank you so much, Hugo. I hope you have a wonderful day. Don't let the
You too.
humidity kill you in Houston, okay?
All right.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.